May I proceed?
You may.
Good morning. Can you please introduce yourself to the members of the jury?
Hi, I'm Harper.
Why are you here today?
My husband, Chris, was the person who was killed on June 29th, 2017. And I was asked to come testify.
Can you tell us a little bit about Chris?
Yeah, Chris was the love of my life. He was a great writer. He could make anyone smile. He really was my best friend. He made me a better person.
I'd like to delve a little bit deeper into your relationship with Chris. How do you meet?
Well, originally we met at journalism school. Honestly, I always kind of had a crush on him, but I was just so shy back then. I just assumed that he didn't know who I was.
How'd you end up married?
Well, actually, years later, I was interviewing Chris at an awards show. And the whole interview, again, I thought he didn't recognize me. But then at the end, he told me that a speech that I gave in Journalism 201 about using humor to approach social issues changed his approach to writing. And after that, the rest was history. We talked all night, left the show together, started dating within the week, and we were married 3 months later. It was one of the best times in my life.
If it's all right, I'd like to talk about June 29th.
Okay.
How did that day begin for you?
Like any other day, we both woke up early. We went downstairs to eat breakfast. Well, Chris ate breakfast. I've never been much of a breakfast eater. It used to drive Chris crazy. So I sipped on coffee, and he gave me his daily speech about how breakfast was the most important meal of the day. And I complained about someone I had to interview that day, and he complained about the act of the day. It was just all so normal.
What did you do after breakfast?
We both just went to work.
Did you speak to Chris again that day?
Yeah, I didn't speak to him, but he tried to call me during my lunch break.
Did he leave a message?
Yeah, we always talked at lunch, but sometimes we got busy, so when we did, we would just leave a message, and he did that day.
Would you recognize a copy of a transcript of that message if I showed it to you today?
Yes, I would.
Permission, I'm approaching opposing counsel with Exhibit 17. Permission to approach the witness.
You may.
Would Your Honor like a copy?
Yes, please, thank you.
What did I just hand you?
This is the message, the last words that Chris spoke to me.
Is it a fair and accurate transcription of the message that you received?
Yes,
Does it read the same as when you heard it first?
it does.
Plaintiff offers Exhibit 17 into evidence.
Any objections?
No objection, Your Honor.
All right, with no objection, the Exhibit 17 will be admitted into evidence.
What is this message about?
He was just filling me in on his day so far. He made a couple jokes to try and make me laugh, was talking about some act that he was worried about.
What was that act?
I guess there was a monkey on set that day.
Can you read that part of the message that talks about the act?
Yeah, he said, "I'm a little worried about the segment. The monkey has been screaming all morning, and the trainer seems completely incapable of controlling it. I'm concerned that it's going to end up attacking an audience member."
Thank you, Ms. Villafana. What did you do after receiving this message?
Well, I tried to call Chris back. We talked every day, but he didn't answer.
Did you ever find out why he didn't answer?
Yeah. Right after Chris didn't answer the phone, my assistant came running into my office, and all I could hear was Chris's name, an accident. And after that, I just went into autopilot. I could only focus on getting to the hospital, on getting to Chris.
Did you make it to the hospital?
I did. But when I got there, they told me that Chris had died.
Did you get to see Chris?
No. I guess they thought it was best that I didn't. The wounds were so bad. I mean, I lost my husband, and that was bad enough, but I didn't get to see him one last time. Now, I didn't know how to live with that. I still don't.
I'd like to talk about Danny Kosak. Did you ever meet him?
Yes, unfortunately, one time.
When was that?
He came to Chris's funeral. The man whose animal killed my husband had the audacity to show up at his funeral. I mean, I was already a wreck that day, so I just screamed at him to leave.
Did he say anything to you?
Yeah, he tried to apologize. He said, I should have stopped it. I could have stopped it. I could have done more, or something like that.
Thank you, Ms. Filifana. I have no further questions.
All right. Cross-examination.
Mr. Honor. Good morning, Ms. Filifana. Sorry to hear what happened. I want to talk to you about your background. You started working in the entertainment industry as a reporter, correct?
Yes.
In fact, you've done that your entire career.
Yeah, I've been a reporter since I graduated journalism school.
You've never worked at Living television studios, though, right?
No, just Chris did.
You weren't on set that day of the attack at MTS?
No, I'm glad I wasn't.
And you've never been at MTS a single day? You've never, ever been to MTS?
I mean, I went to the Christmas party, but no, I didn't work there.
Now, I want to talk to you about what you know about MTS. You talked to your husband, Chris, about his work, correct?
Yeah, we were best friends. I knew everything about him.
In fact, you knew that, you said that it seemed, you thought that it seemed that at the very least, Midland's television studios seemed very disorganized, correct?
I know Chris's schedule was a little inconsistent, so I guess so.
Is that a yes? You thought that MTS at the very least seemed very disorganized?
Yes.
And there were several instances where you saw Chris Villafana take phone calls, random call days, random times of the day, correct?
Yes, he was a television writer. That was a demanding job.
And you even witnessed a time when he came home and he reeked of alcohol, right?
Objection, more prejudicial than probative.
Response.
Your Honor, I'm just asking the witness an instance where she saw her husband come home reeking of alcohol. I'm not using this to show that her husband, who was always smelling of alcohol, is just one instance, not to show him.
Response.
The probative value of this question is substantially outweighed by the prejudicial effect, as she paints MTS as a company that disregards safety and disregards alcohol. She paints this picture that is more prejudicial than the probative effect.
Your Honor, I'm just asking the witness in one instance. I'm not including that this instance would lead to many other instances in which her husband came home with smelling and reeking of alcohol.
Is there another objection that you might want to make there?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Based on the objections as argued, I'm going to overrule the objection. You may proceed.
Let me talk about that instance. Your husband came home one day and he reeked of alcohol.
I mean, Chris never drank, but one day someone did spill wine on him.
That's right. Chris told you that Miss Alex Grace threw a glass of wine at him and said that he was not fun.
That's what Chris said.
And there was also an instance after February 2017, many instances where you saw directly that your husband was ignoring phone calls, correct?
Yeah, he was starting to consider pursuing a different career, so he was a bit less invested towards the end.
And he was ignoring emails from Alex Grace.
Yes.
Now I want to talk to you about the phone call that you talked about on your direct examination. Do you have that phone call
Yeah,
with
I
you? Your Honor, I'm referencing Exhibit 17.
The record shall so reflect.
So if you could read silently as I read out aloud. There's no specific line numbers, but if you could go to the bottom half. The line starts with Alex's muffled talking in the background. Do you see that? Would you like me to point that out?
Yeah. Oh, yes, now I found it, please.
Alex is stumbling on the set, literally as I speak. Looks like Alex had another rough night. This is going to be a long one. Did I read that correctly?
Chris said.
And I wanted to mention something you mentioned on direct examination. When you were reading off this transcript, you read off the part that says your husband said to you, "This trainer seems totally incompetent." Correct?
Yeah. Chris was obviously worried that someone would get hurt. He didn't know it would be him.
But you know that he's never been an expert in animal training.
I mean, it doesn't take an expert to see that an animal's out of control.
But you think that you don't need to be an expert to understand if this trainer is incompetent?
All I know from this is that Chris was scared, and now I know he had every right to be.
Is that a yes or no? Do you know if you have to be an expert to see if a trainer is incompetent?
I don't think that you do, no.
Okay. Lastly, I want to talk about your funeral.
My funeral?
I apologize. I'm referencing your funeral that you planned for your husband.
Okay.
So after you found out he had passed away, you planned and prepared a funeral, correct?
Of course, I wanted to honor his life.
And at the funeral, Miss Alex Grace wasn't present.
No, I'm glad she wasn't. I didn't want any of them there.
But later, after your funeral, you received a letter directly from Miss Alex Grace, correct?
After Chris's funeral, yes, I did.
You would recognize this if I were to show it to you in court.
I would.
Virtual opposing counsel, exhibit 20. Permission to approach the witness.
Good night.
Your Honor, would you like a case copy?
Yes, please, thank you.
You recognize this. This letter was sent directly to you to your home from Miss Alex Grace, correct?
Yeah, and she calls me Heather in the letter like 3 times.
And it doesn't seem to be altered or changed in any way.
No.
Permission to move exhibit 20, please.
Objection, lack of foundation. May I be heard?
Sure.
Ms. Harper Villafana is unable to verify the writer of this document, and therefore cannot be entered into evidence.
Your Honor, may I respond?
Sure.
I'll lay that foundation, but she finished them.
Okay.
So, Ms. Vilfana, once you received this letter and you read through it, you are aware that this handwriting is from Ms. Alex Grace?
I mean, through this lawsuit, I've seen her handwriting a couple times, and it looks like it.
So that's a yes. You are aware that this is her handwriting, Ms. Alex Grace?
I'm aware that it looks like it, yes.
Now I would like to move Exhibit 20 to.
Any objection?
Objection, same objection, lack of foundation. We have heard no testimony as to how Ms. Harper Villafana would know Alex Grace's, and she hasn't verified what this message is about. So we can't enter it into evidence if we don't know what it is.
Your Honor, may I respond?
Sure.
I just laid the foundation. Ms. Villafana herself told us in court that she is aware that this handwriting is Ms. Alex Grace's handwriting, as she saw her handwriting throughout this trial. And in addition, she's the one who received this letter. I asked her if this was the letter that she received it. She said yes.
Is a non-expert opinion on handwriting sufficient to lay the foundation?
Only with sufficient personal knowledge, which Ms. Harper Villafana does not have. Furthermore, if I may proffer,
Sure.
Ms. Harper Villafana received this letter in the dead of night without anyone having accompanied it. So therefore, Ms. Young's statement that she would know who it was from just by receiving it is incorrect.
So just so I'm clear, is a non-expert's opinion on handwriting a sufficient basis to authenticate a document? Is there a rule that cites that?
I do believe it says on the stipulation.
Oh, is there stipulation to that point?
Yes, there is.
Oh.
Pursuant to stipulation 8, it says, both parties were present for a joint handwriting analysis of Exhibit 20, the handwriting letter. This analysis determined that Alex Grace was the author of Exhibit 20. The parties acknowledge and agree that Alex Grace authored Exhibit 20.
How about that, counsel? Does that stipulation that you agreed to change anything?
While the stipulation exists, Ms. Harper Villafana cannot verify this document.
But you've already previously stipulated before trial that Alex Grace was the author of this document, isn't that right?
Ms. Young had the opportunity of introducing this evidence with Ms. Alex Grace, who can testify that she wrote it, but Ms. Harper Villafana cannot testify to that.
I'm going to overrule the objection. We'll receive Exhibit 20 into evidence.
Yes, Your Honor.
You may proceed.
If you could turn the page of the first.
Excuse me?
To the first page. There aren't any line numbers, but on the second paragraph, you could read silently as I read aloud. Dear, this is to Heather, which I suppose it's to you, from Alex Grace.
My name is Heather. Yeah.
I wasn't always a perfect boss, but working for me had to be fun, right? It skipped down a couple lines. Maybe that Alex is fun, that's who I am. That's who I was. Who knew, maybe if I listened to the rules or said yes to a different animal. I don't know, I don't care, the show got canceled. Turn the page. If you could skip to the last paragraph. Sorry again, I let everyone down. I don't feel like a good person, but everyone tells me I'm great. I guess I'm just confused. Did I read that correctly?
Yeah, and just like I didn't want to hear Danny Kozak's apology, I didn't really care what Alex Grace had to say either.
No further questions.
All right. Any redirect?
No redirect, Your Honor. I ask that my witness be allowed to step down.
All right, witness is excused.
May I also approach and retrieve evidence and tender to the bench?